Hi, in this video demonstration we're going to talk about polygon modeling in reference to a character's body. Every time I start a character's body, I almost always have a character's head to begin with. So what I've done here is just kind of provided a very low poly kind of mannequin style head here so that we don't have to do a full character, and we can kind of get started just talking about the figure of our character here. You'll also notice that I've already set up a turnaround in our viewport here, two planes with the front and side view of our character. I'm going to go ahead and select both of those this time. Right click and go into my object properties here. I'm going to go ahead and make them unrenderable. I'm going to turn off the show frozen in gray. I'm going to turn on freeze, and I'm going to say OK. That way I can click without those things kind of getting in our way, which you probably also saw in the video on how to set those things up. And then I've got my head positioned so that it is lined up in my front and side views here of my body itself, and we can go ahead and get started. I almost always start with a head for a particular reason here. This guy has got a symmetry modifier on it to kind of carve it in half, but we can come down to the edit poly stack, open it up, and grab our polygons here. And I want to kind of grab this whole row at the very bottom of the neck. And how I like to start, because this gives me a perfect idea on how many polygons I'm going to need around the neck of the body to match up and sew the head on. So I'm going to come down and find my edit geometry, and there's an detach button here. I'm going to go ahead and click that. I'm going to detach it as a clone. I'll even give it a name. I'll just call it body and say OK. Then I can unselect my subobject, go back to that symmetry there, and now I've got this floating around here extra object. I can actually change maybe the color here to a blue or something just so that we see the difference there. And this is going to mean that anywhere I go from the bottom here, I start extruding out edges, etc., I'll always have the exact same number that I need in order to sew the head onto the body. From this point, I can actually even copy that symmetry by clicking the head, come back over here, right-clicking on symmetry, copy, come back down, select that piece of the neck we just made, right-click, and paste. And that way we've got the entire thing all the way around ready to go. And once I get it going a little ways, I'll take these blue polygons that we just created. I'll actually erase those completely since they already exist on the neck. But this gives me a good starting point to get going on the body. Now I can come down in here, go to maybe my edge selection in Editable Poly. If I want to, I can turn on the end result stack. I'm not going to worry about that right now yet. And start extruding. And I can kind of extrude maybe all at once, or I can extrude one at a time here. Let's start with that one, and maybe this one. Maybe if I loop all the way around, unselect the two that are a little strange in here. That's kind of a sneaky way of reducing one polygon or two polygons down into one polygon, because you're going to have a lot of polygons up here from the details in your face, and so you're going to want to kind of get rid of an extra row of polygons anywhere you can a lot of times. So that's just a little example of that. Alright, good. I've got them all the way around the bottom. Maybe I'll just take my I can even take my move tool. Now I'm just Alt-Wing in order to get those bigger or smaller here. We get a little bit of flicker going on, and pull them down. I may also go ahead and get my scale tool and kind of flay them out there a little bit. And we're going to try and, well, let's see, we don't need those all the way up there. We can actually, yeah, we can actually just use our scale tool, flay them out a little bit, and I can start my journey over here up to the shoulders. Once I've got a full row here, I can actually go ahead and maybe even select both of these guys, kind of pull them down so that that neck ends toward the base of the body where it's supposed to. I can now actually also select all those polygons I had originally and just hit delete on my keyboard, because now I've got another row from which to actually take this and start this character. Some minor adjustments here or there, and we're kind of set, ready to go. pull this out and maybe this over just a bit. We've got the start of our character. I might do the same thing one more time. Hold down Shift to extrude those edges. Shift with your move tool on edges. And we'll make that a little bit bigger. Kind of like that. Alright, so here's our first part of our body. If I want to, I can kind of pull those back out so I get a little bit more of that muscle structure there. From here, I might take it in a couple of different directions. I can go straight down the arm or down the torso. I usually start with the torso here. So let me kind of go back to my front frame here. And I can make some of these guys match a little bit better to this body. We're a little bit off with our turnaround there, but that's alright. Nothing's going to ever be perfectly spot on when you're doing converting and drawing to a 3D model, as long as it looks good in the end. Okay, but that gives us kind of the beginning portions and a good place to start for our body there. Again, now that we're down our first one here, I can just kind of pull straight down. Hold down Shift and pull straight down and start to kind of define or go the other direction here with the chest. And kind of pull down to about maybe there. And that can kind of end up right back in the middle somewhere. And we're going to want to pull all these vertices out to meet that chest. And then just to kind of give us some semblance of that muscle structure there, we can kind of pull down and start to kind of round some of these guys, or square off some of these guys, since we're building a male character here. Okay, good. And then maybe since the closer your edges get together here, the more defined a corner or an edge is going to be. So if I keep some close here so I can have some to define the pectorals, we'll be doing good, and then we can kind of start to broaden out and down a little bit more. As well as bring over. Something along the lines of that. One, and maybe one for the waist here. Now I might kind of play around. Let's see, that's going to be okay, I think. Start to get a little bit flatter as we come down towards the waist. And maybe even go the other direction here. Especially when I want this to kind of meet up on the other side. And that gives us kind of the round, yet kind of a skinny character shape that we're looking for here. And I can always puff these all out a little bit more in the future as we get going. Okay. Now, keeping in mind how many we've got going around the neck here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, total of 6 polygons to do the entire body on this guy. So this is going to be a rather low poly character, but we still want him to have some personality and some shape. So I'm going to kind of come around. Maybe I'll even go one more down. One. Pull that out there, and then maybe 2. We'll see how that does us. I'm a little concerned. Maybe my drawing is off a little bit here, but that's okay. We can deal with it. And we can start to pull some of these guys maybe in, since that's going to end up being his groin there. Maybe with a couple of these we can start 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And go all the way around him. Now I gave him way too much room here. I want to skinny that waist up a bit. So I'll pull in, out, and around there. At some point, I've got to reverse the direction that my kind of corners are going in. Start smoothing them out a little bit more. And start modifying so that they might fit the back. I even kind of pull some of these up, kind of go up and around that hip. And that gives me more to work with for the butt. I've also got way too much out here. Grab that piece at the back there and just start reforming or redefining where everything's at. But again, it's all the same tools, whether you're modeling a face, a body, character head bust, car, all the same tools. It's just your own artistic layout here of where these vertices and polygons are. And then I start to see where I have some shape problems. So I can pull these, whoops, out to round that guy out a little bit. Again, at this point I can turn on my other side here. Maybe even add a mesh smooth. We'll leave it at 1 iteration for right now. And kind of make sure that what I'm getting is going to work. I think it will. Alright. That gives us a good place to really begin this body. From here I can kind of go around and fill in the torso, shape out the chest. So let's do that. I just kind of click in here. I'm going to turn off that mesh smooth, but I'm going to leave on symmetry there. It makes me feel like I'm working faster. If I kind of drag a selection around all of these, I get the top rounded ones that I want, as well as some of these ones down here that I don't. So if I hold Alt, I can unselect those. Make sure I get all of the ones I want in there. Got some problems still in there, it looks like. I'll kind of pull this up and out halfway, and maybe even scale it to start filling in that torso area a bit. A little bit more. And in. And this is all just kind of a push and pull and get everything lined up the way you want to see it before you move on. Anytime you need to weld a vertex, you know you're going to need to weld a vertex. You stop. Move over to your vertex selection, select the two that need to be welded, and just do it. Otherwise, you're going to get to the end of this model and realize you've got a whole lot of places to weld, and you don't remember where they all are anymore. And here we go. Let's start looking at my drawing a little bit. It's not too bad. It's actually lining up pretty well. It's a little far over. We don't need it that far in. There we go. And turn on the mesh smooth. Just another quick check, because we've got some not quite making it to the other side. There we go. Get rid of that puckering. We just move those over just a little. And our character starts to take shape. Not too bad. Pull you out a little bit. I can pull you guys out to square you off. And any adjustments you really want to make at this point. You don't want his back to be quite that round. I want his back to kind of start flattening out. There we go. Okay. I choose to kind of take these up because rather than go one around all the way around, kind of just makes sense. I'm going to do the same thing here. Scale up and out. Turn off that mesh so I can actually see where my edges meet. Select those two and weld. Pull you guys in. And you as well. And again, start flattening the back area out as we go a little bit more. Turn on the mesh smooth just to see. We're getting there. Oh, 1, 2, 3. Here I might make some room. So we've got some room to play with this chest muscle here that we're going to make. Again, the closer that these edges get to each other, you notice the more of a crevice, the more of a crook or a crink or a wrinkle or a fold that we're actually going to get. On the side here, depends on how far I want that pectoral to go. I can pull it out and really define it. Or leave it subtle. Depends, you know, you might want to model close right into your character. You can really define like where the muscle bows in towards the sternum here and out and around, or you can leave it more like he's wearing a bodysuit or a t-shirt and just give a hint that there's something there. And then towards the middle or whatever, we can pull forward to define that as though there are two muscles there, not just one, right? Okay. About this point, I might actually jump over and kind of pull out. Whoops, let's look in this view, our front view. Pull out something along the lines for this muscle here. Might meet. And even maybe select, let's turn off that mesh smooth again. Even select and kind of pull up and out, and we can really see how this is going to start defining, because the chest is kind of our most detailed area in this little low poly character. And what we want to end up doing is, you know, leave that muscle kind of tight in there, but not carry it all the way around the body. Want it to start flattening out. Turn on our mesh smooth so we can see how we're doing there. See, at this point, pull this guy back maybe, and this guy forward. We can really kind of start to get a better picture of where we're going to need this to end. I pulled in, this one pulled forward a little bit more, and we'll get our definition somehow there. There we go. And then maybe even for the rest of these, I can select Alt W, in and out of these views. All these guys around. Maybe kind of pull them up. I know I want them over. and where I can start welding together to get into this underneath the armpit area where we can leave a nice hole for his arm. Maybe even going around the back. I don't want there to be a crease as much all the way around, so I can kind of start carrying these down, gradual changes, right, to separate out those edges so that in the front they make a nice crease and crevice, but in the back we get no folds whatsoever. Not a bad place to start. It's a place to start. We'll come back and play with this once we see the entire thing as well, for sure. Okay. At this point, I can actually even kind of grab two edges and use my bridge tool to just kind of do some quick fill-ins. And I might even, start to decide. I still want this to kind of come down and meet underneath the arm, I think. So we'll do that. The problem with working in your perspective view is you never really truly understand which direction you're going in. It looks like it's right on top, but it's not, right? So we get it as close as we can. And then I'll grab those two that I know are going to need welded. Sew them together. I can take this guy and place him exactly where I want him. Kind of define this crease that's going to happen underneath our arm. But it leaves what I need to define the chest there, like he's wearing kind of a shirt or a superhero jumpsuit or skin tight something. And that gives us a decent place to start with that kind of a skinny but muscular looking little character here. Okay. At this point, some of these are going to take off down the arm, and the rest are going to take, we're going to kind of, all of them probably here, take off down the arm. So I need to just decide where I want that to start. Some of these guys with the smooth on, pull out there a little bit. But now my body will meet up with my neck, and my character's head will attach to my body fairly easily once I'm done, making more for targets and everything for it. So maybe from here, I kind of leave that hole open. I know this is the one that kind of continues out underneath the arm, so I can make this all the way around. Maybe pull that up. And that'll leave us a space for the arm to start, which we'll start on next. And there we are. And again, the farther apart I can get a lot of these on the back side, then I get the fold for the muscle here on the front, but I don't want that on the back. I want that to be fairly flat. So I like to space, I want to space and smooth these guys out as best we can. Pull over, no sharp angles, everything at a kind of a gradual sloping change to smooth them out. But that's not too bad. That'll work. That'll leave us a nice all the way around hole for our shoulder there. Here I might take, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know that. 1 yellow, 2 yellow, 3 yellow, 4 yellow. And I can actually bridge up. Maybe grab this guy and use my ring to select all the way through and around. And connect to get myself just a couple more to play with so I can round out that back. As well as so that my arm has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 all the way around for a nice round shape. If you start to not see your drawing anymore, but the model takes on the shape of the drawing, then you're doing it right. I think we're doing all right. the entire torso is fairly well complete. Not too bad. Alright. From here we can either continue on to kind of create the leg there, or let's just kind of grab this one down here and kind of come all the way around and finish out the butt for the torso. I'm going to kind of pull down maybe one and then all the way under to define this a little bit. And then we'll get that a little bit, skinnier as we go. And hold down shift and pull down, and that'll finish off right to the middle where his crotch meets his butt. And give him somewhat of a superhero bulge there for the hell of it. We'll leave him fairly anatomically incorrect, however, because this guy's wearing tights or something, so. At this point where he meets kind of the middle, I kind of want everything to straighten out so that I can reverse it, go back up the other side. And two. And I rotate so that all of these are kind of rounding out as they go back up. And maybe even just grab those two and bridge, and that gives me exactly what I need to kind of pull apart. We'll want him to start widening in the back, whereas he shrunk in the front, and that leaves holes for his leg. The idea? Good deal. Alright, let's go back up to the arm. Of course, you're probably going to want to remember to save your work as often as you can. Let's just take the top two. One, hold down Control to select the other. Hold down Shift to extrude, and kind of start pulling out, up, down, around to get this first kind of curved shape of the arm. 1, 2, maybe a last one, 3. That way, the more polygons you've got up here, the more your character will be able to twist and bend and flex a little bit more. But it's also the more you've got to deal with in rigging. So we want it low poly, but we want enough to make our character not robotic and stiff. And that gives us a place to start at least. Since I don't have a drawing from the top view, this is going to be where everything just kind of starts. The hands and everything. You don't do turnarounds with hands. You just make hands. Your own artistic creativity there. Oops, why am I trying to weld? I want to go. There we go. We can kind of squish some of these guys together to create a point where it might reach a wrist, or these guys in the middle where we might create an elbow. We might kind of grab all of these guys down, out and around here, and kind of say those are going to make the top of the arm. So I want to leave them fairly high so I can take this part of the chest and pull it on out to create the front of the arm. Let me turn my shaded on, and I can see. Yeah, maybe I'll pull those all in a little bit. And then I know this will be where the wrist meets the hand. I'll probably choose a place like around the bicep or even the forearm to kind of finish going around this thing, and then use my bridge if I can to kind of fill in the blanks. So if I just, let's say 1, hold down shift and pull to reach this point, might even use my rotate a little bit to kind of change direction, and then 2, and then realize that maybe I need one more from my chest to my arm there. That'll work. I realize that this is going to be the arm, so I'll just kind of leave him hanging out and round him out to get that first part of our arm. Likewise over. Let's say we've got 1 all the way over, and then maybe 1 and 2 up. That'll give us the first part of that arm. Pull down, weld, pull up, maybe a little down, over. Get as close as you can before you weld. You can do your target weld too. That'll pull one to the other, and as we get more of this arm, we'll be able to kind of stop and round some of these pieces and parts out here. Okay. Yeah, I can just kind of select all these things, then hold Alt and unselect the ones I don't want. And maybe kind of pull down and out and in. And we can start connecting the torso to the arm here. Weld. I know I'm going to have another one. Yep, there it is. Weld. And whereas the back's going to kind of just kind of gently come together to form between the shoulder blade and the back here and the arm, I can use Control click. There's 4 there, and I use my bridge just to kind of connect. Same thing over here. I do it one at a time just to be sure. Bridge that. Which, see, I left myself a problem here. Now I've got, maybe these can be welded almost completely together. Maybe that's not a problem. Maybe that's a nice solution. Just kind of grab those and pull them down. That ends our chest, as well as kind of gives us less polygons to work with for the back and the arm there a little bit. Now we're going to need to cut in another edge. That's okay. Kind of leave that. Let's undo. I do believe maybe if I grab this guy, ring, just to cut in another edge, that'll help me round that arm out. Maybe even bring these guys over a bit. That'll help me flatten that out. Maybe I can do this to here, bridge, this to here, bridge, and we are covered. And that's a little extreme of a bend there. We can play around with it on all sides to kind of get a gradual change rather than a stark jarring change. And even all of these guys, we can kind of just make it so that they just round out a little bit softer. But overall, I'd say we've got a good start to our arm. Now I can define kind of some things where I want my bicep to bulge out a little bit more, or whatever. Down in here, this will be our elbow, so this will be a fun part here. Elbows can be a bit tricky. I like to use a couple of tries to turn off that smooth now. Round that tricep out just a little bit more. So this kind of T-pose ends up smoothing itself out. There we go. I can select, hold Alt to unselect, so I can get all those around there rather quickly. And we can pull out, get our scale tool and maybe shrink in quite a bit. Maybe that bicep's a little ridiculous, but that's alright. I'm going to shrink in just along the one axis to kind of pull those together for me. A scale tool is more useful than you think in modeling. And this is where we're going to want to define kind of an elbow here. So I might actually pull this back piece back a little ways and leave space for something in the middle there, just that might be able to stretch and contract where that joint bends. Turn on my mesh move, I can say, okay, he's pretty muscly. Maybe that's a little too much, I don't know, we'll see. See how we feel as we keep going. At this point, I might go ahead and grab all the way around here. We can pull forward. Whoops, I missed one. Turn off that mesh smooth. Great for checking, not great for working in. And pull all the way out. Kind of double check my turnaround drawing here. There we go. Alright, here at this point I can weld. At this point I can weld. And I can actually start to think about this elbow here. It might be prudent to use my cut tool here. Hover over that vertex and cut in an extra bit that then can be used as that elbow for stretching. So when he bends his arm, this can actually stretch a little bit further, kind of point in the other direction there a little bit. Also lets me define by kind of pulling out a little bit and then in maybe that elbow. Yeah, it's a couple of tries, but tries are okay. We like tries. We like tries and we like quads. Triangles, rectangles. His wrist goes back a little bit more. And we're well on our way to finishing out that arm. All the way around, we can kind of pull in. Again, shrink down. And that forearm will start to take shape a little bit more. Thin at the wrist. Good enough to weld. Weld. Okay, 2 more to go, and we're done with the arm. I'll probably play with some vertices here. So that's it's broken arm. Hey, that's okay. Maybe shrink in, up a little. We can do these, extruding as many polygons at once as we can. It'll save us some time. But we'll always have to refine since it's those vertices that give us our shape that we want. And I want this arm to kind of remain flat going down, round in the middle. Curvier at the top. There we go. All right. Last one. That's our wrist. And maybe I left a little bit too many polygons down the arm, but I don't think so. I think that'll come in handy later when we start animating. They call them twisty bones, where it's one bone makes up your forearm, but if you turn it, you get all those muscles that kind of twist and pull and turn. If we want that similar look, we got to have enough polygons for our character to actually have the skin of it twist and turn a little bit. Alright, let's take another look here. Good. Pull that back. And kind of even and shore everything up here. Bring everything together a bit. And there we have the beginnings of our forearm. Maybe we'll pull this kind of back a little bit. Test it out again by turning on our smooth. Checking him out. Not too shabby. That'll work. Work for now anyway. Can always adjust as we go. Alright, next part. Hands and then legs, and then we're done. Hands. Oh, every artist's favorite, right? Alright, so if I take this and kind of pull out one, maybe even something close so that we get some definition there for the wrist. And then another one there. And that'll kind of take off down the thumb. Then maybe one, two to get to the fingers. Select all of these guys. Pull forward and flare out a little bit. And again, since those edges are kind of close together at the wrist here, that's going to give me some definition there. A defined change between the wrist and the forearm. And I can define it further if I like, by squeezing one of them in. Just take you, pull you down a bit. That's better. Give you more of a beefy Popeye arm there. I want to define you a little bit more. I can pull up and go a little nuts. Down to the wrist, where everything gets a little thinner. And turn that mesh off again. There we go. Alright, so if this is going to be the top of my hand, this will start where it goes 3/4, and this will turn into the thumb from there. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this and this forward as well, because that'll end up becoming our index finger and our pinky finger. And we're not going to do super perfect photorealistic fingers because this guy's kind of a low poly character. We'll do some low poly fingers, lower poly fingers. And at about this point, I want to make sure that my hand goes from being kind of flat like this to more of a wedge shape. This is going to end up the back of my hand. And I don't really have a huge guide for this other than maybe the size of the hands from my turnaround. So this is all just stopping for a moment, looking at your own hand, and seeing how you can create the same shape there. Your hand kind of broadens out and then straightens out. This I might even kind of start there, and maybe this one to kind of define where my thumb may begin. Maybe even kind of grab these guys and pull them a little bit towards that thumb. This towards the middle, and then out. You're a little wonky in there. Woo! Okay, this gives us our 4 fingers here. I'm going to do only 2 at a time to kind of help me. 1, 2, 3. We'll leave these fingers fairly square to get us going, and I might cut in just like we did the elbow for the finger joints. I might cut in a try there just to allow for some stretching. Pull this over a little bit. I might just go all the way around these 2 fingers. Pull down. It gives me a starting point at least. Unselect one, maybe bridge across. Whoops. And then do the same to the other finger here. We can actually go over to our border and cap those suckers. And we'll define, the thickness of the fingers, and we'll reshape them a little bit more so they look a little bit less, thin, thick, alien-like once we get them all going here. I might even just kind of take one finger here, fix it up, and then hold down Shift and we can copy it over and just tie it in. But I am definitely going to want this finger a little bit thicker. Grab all these polygons around the finger in the bottom side there and pull in and square off. since we know as we go around the hand here, I may want to separate these fingers quite a bit. There we go. As well as maybe even kind of get them thinner towards the end of the finger. And there may be quite a bit of shortening still to happen as well. It doesn't look too bad. And remember that this is also where the finger's going to kind of meet. So I can kind of pull some of these over, out, and down. Whoops, wrong one. So that I have a way of finishing off things like the thumb. Start looking at the side here. There we go. Crooked is not good, so let's uncrook. Some of these fingers. Hands are almost always the part that gives you the most issue till you get real good. I may not be there yet. Alright, good. I can do the same thing, kind of pull these guys out. 1, 2, kind of 3, that's the middle finger. That's the pinky finger. We can start to give ourselves a little bit of a rotation there so that our fingers can spread apart a little bit more. Alright, let's try this with the edges. Okay. A lot of just observing at this point and making proper changes. Thin that guy up a bit and molding what we want. The hands always take me the longest whenever I'm doing a body, but they're still going pretty quick. And good. And out. And bridge on over. And of course, those two are going to end up having to meet and weld. Just like they did at the top there. One, two, three. Whoops. Missed one. 3, 4, 6. Good. And gotta love that bridge tool there. You find that wheeling in and out kind of gives you some issues. Don't forget your magnifying glasses down here, and that'll give you a little bit more of a smooth zoom in. Alt-X, always helpful when we're modeling, so we can start to see where some of these vertices are in the back, behind some of these other things. And we'll weld those together. Pull you up a bit. And we've got the beginnings of a hand here. Kind of make this broaden as we see fit, so that that kind of just turns into the pinky finger. And stuff like, there we go. Maybe even just kind of pull you up in and under a little bit more. As well as this guy kind of pulls straight out to the index finger. That'll help us spread them apart as well. You're just holding control to select more than one vertex. We've got a pretty decent start to that hand. It'll work for now anyway. And then, using cut, I can kind of help my fingers be a little bit less boxy and robotic by maybe cutting in like a try here and giving us a joint area on our fingers. So that there's a little bit more room for some stretching and pulling, just like we did at the elbow. And I'm just making sure that mouse icon, there's our vertex, there's what it looks like for an edge. Just making sure that it's in the right place, and then I'll end, right click, and turn vertex to vertex. And back the other direction. Right click to end, vertex to vertex. And that'll be about where I start my fingers. I'll come back and I'll play with them until they are a little bit nicer shaped. Oops, my top viewport got a little. But that gives us something to start with at least. And then we'll finish out this thumb here real quick. 1. Up and 2. There we go. Pull it down. take a look. Thumb's always a little different. An opposable digit there. So I'll try and kind of make those two sides kind of fit. And then we can box them and bring them back up together. One, two. And that thumb needs some major fixes, but that's okay. And square that out a little bit more. Shore that up a bit. There we go. And we'll go ahead and cap you. And push you up there. See, there's our 4 that we got going on here. This should be kind of more up there. And this is where we can kind of use that drawing to make sure that we're all at least in the right size arena here. And that should make our thumb quite a bit better, I'd say. And then it's just a matter of kind of connecting everything else in between. And filling everything out to get that kind of wedge shape for our hand. And of course, I'll come back later on. I don't think you guys, you get the idea at this point, so we'll kind of move on from here. And I'll come back and, I'll play with this later on to get the shape just the way I want it. Oh, that zoom just, there we go. Oops. Okay. Back the thumb becomes the back of the hand. This will all become the palm. Right on in here. We'll have to do some clever edge cutting in to kind of make everything fit. Think maybe I was a little too hasty with that thumb. We might still get a whole nother row in there. To match up our finger. Just square you up again anyhow. I said this process never runs perfectly, but why would we want it to? Never learn nothing from doing it perfectly. There's my Disney moment. See, along with the curve of the hand now, though, I can use that to straighten out my fingers and kind of round them around the hand so that they don't look so skewed. That'll work for now. And maybe, just maybe, I can come in here and bridge. Get a little small in here. That zoom, my mouse wheel zoom, kind of starts fussing. Alright, I'll quit messing with this. We'll come back and kind of finish forming out the hand there. We've got a decent start. All I got to do is finish out the palm and fiddle with the fingers until they look a little bit better, but we're starting to get there. We've got 2 arms, 2 hands, and a torso. Let's go ahead and finish out our leg before I go ahead and come back here and fiddle with the hand there much. Because we're not doing anything but pushing and pulling vertices and repositioning things at this point, so you don't need to watch me do that, I don't think. Not for the educational portion of this, anyway. So some of you might be better at hands than myself, and you'll figure them out a hell of a lot quicker than I do. Let's come down here now. We've got a border all the way around at this point. It's like 10 edges. I might go ahead and make, just to do the hip there first and then smooth on down the leg. We can kind of bring all these guys down from here and start there. I can use my scale tool again. Whoa, too many right clicks. There we go. To kind of pull and shore this stuff up. Weld that together. Take a look at the behind. And this one will be for kind of rounding his butt out. This is waist there. Good. Pull that back so that his behind is rounder than his forehand. No, that's not a real word. And good. That'll give us a place to start with our legs. I might come back up and play around with some of this later here as well. Kind of push and pull it up. Now we can just pull down and maybe kind of use our scale tool to even things out. I like to kind of a lot of times scale in one direction all the way until that y-axis down here says 0, just to straighten everything out, and then I can kind of turn and use my scale to rotate that out. A little easier. Gives me a better place to start that leg from, a little bit more even locale. Okay, one, maybe 2 in here. Oh, that right clicking is driving me nuts today for some reason. There we go. And then we'll get to the knee, which we can kind of start a little higher here. We'll kind of bring this in for the thigh. course, I can kind of reposition a lot of this stuff to make sure that we're fitting where I need it to. I don't need him to have tree trunks for legs. He's kind of a skinnier character, so he's kind of more like a mannequin than a character, but that's alright. And there we have a couple of thighs. I might want to, that looks awfully flat, so I can round those back out. I want to turn on my smooth just to make sure everything's kind of working alright, including my creepy balloon fingers right now. That's okay. And then I'm probably going to do something similar with the knee that we did with the elbow and the finger joints, and that's kind of create maybe 2 to 1 here, 3 in the front and 2 polygons in the back of the leg, so that we have some extra stretch for that knee, creating us a couple of tries, but should work out for the best. If I take this front couple here and just kind of pull down 1 and then 2 and 3 for the knee, and then maybe take the back all the way around and bring down 1 and only 2. That'll allow me to kind of maybe select those 2 and bridge, and these 2 and bridge. And there's our try right there. 1, 2 for the bridge, and then I'll have to do some clever moving around here. And that gives us some extra spot for the knee to stretch, as well as doesn't give us a ton of extra polygons for the back of the leg that doesn't need to stretch because your leg doesn't bend that other direction. So there we are. Now all I got to do is kind of pull the knee maybe up, out, and over. And the rest of this stuff can go in. Also kind of gives us a little bit of that knobbier knee look there too, which can help us out in defining that there is a knee actually there. You can even take some of these and kind of pull them out purposely. And then you are pointing out for some reason, and I need you in. In, you go over, pull the leg out and make it a little bit more round, and there we have some knees. At the same time, I can kind of do that similar trick where I kind of flatten everything out by scaling everything together, and then just rotate it in the direction I truly need it, and put it back into place. Also gives me a better idea of where I want my knee to kind of be. In, out, you in the middle, etc. And from there, we can carry it down to the shins. Also a good idea to kind of make sure everything's lining up a little bit, at least with your drawing. Size-wise, anyhow. You pull that leg back so that there is a clear definition of a place for that leg to bend, and on the front side we've got the extra polygons so that it can stretch. Alright, maybe 1, and I'll scale up, pull back, 2. This one will be scaling down. And 3 to reach the ankle. And this one will also be scaling down. Alright, there's our calves. You might want to just turn on your mesh smooth just to make sure everything's kind of looking the way you want it. At this point, stylization and decisions are all yours as to what you want to do with your character's body. If I want to kind of fill out the back side of his calves, I will. If I want to keep him skinny, scrawny-legged, I can, etc. Pull this up, out, and over so our foot has a nice flat place to start from. But at the same time, the front of that shin is nice and usually fairly flat. Pull these two back to get a little bit more of a muscle. This one out and in to square it off. And I'd say that's looking like a character's body. Not too shabby. Alright. Foot. I don't have any toes on this foot or anything, but similar method to the fingers. If we just kind of want to pull maybe 1, 2, 3 to the toe, maybe straight out just 1 for the rest of those toes. And I can use my scale to kind of stretch them out, put them maybe into place. Let's turn that mesh smooth off, and I'm going to kind of redo that. Well, I'm only going to take 2 this time. That's all we need for the front part of the foot. So 1, 2, maybe 3 to the toe, and 1 straight out. Then I can even go straight down for that kind of shoe or socked looking toe. And remember, our drawing, you always draw with a little bit of perspective, and it might be completely different here. So I just want to pull these toes out to the front of where I see my foot ending. And then gradually, as always, kind of make everything head towards that direction. Okay. Same thing, I kind of pull back with that toe to start the front of the foot. And even bridge. Love that bridge. 1, 2, bridge to kind of flatten that toe out. Now I might be a little ahead of myself. We can kind of grab these all the way around, cut in one more edge, and that'll help us kind of get rounder if I want to scale in, let's say, this direction. Even a bit in this direction. Or pull forward to get those rounder toes and flatten that foot out a little bit more. That'll also kind of give us a place to attach the next several extrudes from, let's say, here, here, and here. I kind of extrude down and over. And weld that. Get in a little closer here. Whoa. And here I can refine my ankle here, but pull it up and weld that as well. And there's the start of the instep of our foot there. And then this can actually kind of maybe pull forward and down to start the other half or the other side of our foot. This can kind of start curving down around that direction, and same on the other side. So we're going to want to heel there. which we can take, let's say, let's get rid of those and that, and just go with 1, 2, maybe 3, 4 around the edge. Then maybe 1, 2, 3 around the back. And those are way too big, so we scale them in. Simply move them over. And weld it to the back of that ankle. And then, of course, if I Alt-X, I can fit the rest of them a little bit better. And round them out. So everything fits a little nicer in there. My mouse wheel is a little sensitive there, so I keep rolling it and it keeps going way too far. Hopefully yours isn't that sensitive. It works okay for me, but when I'm recording a video, it tends to make everything jump over a little bit. I know I don't want this. Once again, to kind of round off. And now we can kind of meet up, out, and around our foot. Perhaps similarly, perhaps not. We can bridge. I know I need 2, so I can kind of select both of those and connect. Pull out, which will allow me to kind of bridge 1, 2, 3, these 4. And just start filling that foot in until it looks like a foot. Sometimes I like to bridge right in the middle there and then add in however many edges with that connect that I know I'm going to need. Because bridging is so much easier than welding vertex by vertex. I keep getting the plurals and the non-plurals all messed up. Vertices and vertex, not vertexes or vertices. But you get it. Oh, look at that. Our foot is almost finished. Not too shabby. Bridge, bridge, and we've only got a couple to go. I can bridge that, and I can bridge this. Again, let's kind of combine. And you know what? That's going to need one more in there, so I won't cap that yet. 1 edge, 2 edge, connect. This one's got 4 edges, so I can cap it. I can cap this one too, and just select these last 2 vertices and connect. And we have a character body. Alright, so just like anything, same several tools to create a full character, body, torso, legs, even hands. And now it's just a matter of kind of going back over the body inch by inch, tweaking to make sure things like my hands are properly sized and maybe in proportion, as well as, refine maybe the size of the foot, how the toes kind of bridge out, and push around the muscle structure, maybe round his butt out a little bit, etc. But that's all just kind of pushing and pulling vertices, moving them around a little bit until you are satisfied. So there you go, modeling a character body. All right.